Gunnison, Colorado is famous for its severe winters and snow-covered landscapes. In fact, the small western slope town has earned the reputation as one of the coldest places in North America because of its sustained periods of sub-zero and record low temperatures. By Gunnison standards, this season has been relatively mild, with warmer than average temperatures throughout fall and early winter. However, above average snowfall across the region has posed some challenges for big game animals. In late December and early January, heavy snows, combined with an unusual period of freezing rain, created difficult forage conditions for elk and deer. In recent weeks, big game animals moved to the lowest areas of their winter range, bringing them dangerously close to Highway 50. To ensure public safety, Colorado Parks and Wildlife's Gunnison office launched a baiting program to lure elk and deer away from the highway. Using snowcats loaded with bags of food, wildlife officers are currently baiting deer into more remote areas. Because deer have extremely sensitive digestive systems and cannot eat hay, officers are providing specially formulated pellets that are safe for the animals to consume. The pellets are scattered across large areas, which helps to prevent the spread of disease by keeping deer herds more widely dispersed. Wildlife officers are also baiting elk away from the highways and to keep the larger, more aggressive animals away from deer. Unlike deer, elk can consume hay without harmful impacts to their health. Elk are also hardier than deer and are more capable of withstanding winter weather. With crews working 7 days a week, the baiting program has proved a major undertaking for the Gunnison office. However, wildlife managers say the effort has worked well to protect motorists and prevent wildlife vehicle collisions.
The goal has been to pull animals back off of the highway to the best of our ability, and certainly there's lots of places that we can't get to simply because of topography and things, but the snowcats have just been an incredibly important tool in our tool chest. I feel like we've been fairly successful in getting significant numbers of animals pulled back through the baiting efforts.
Despite late season snows, most animals came into winter in good condition with excellent fat stores. Recent surveys also show that deer and elk are moving freely across most of their winter range and are beginning to find natural forage again beneath the snow. With warmer temperatures on tap and continued help from Mother Nature, wildlife officers remain optimistic heading into spring.
In the last week, it's been sort of a dramatic change. You can see the landscape changing based on the warmer temperatures. The snow has settled significantly. You're starting to see more shrub. You're starting to see more south and west facing slopes bearing off. So that's a great thing for the big game.
Although conditions are improving, winter is a challenging time for deer and other wildlife. And like all Colorado winters, not all animals will survive. Biologists anticipate higher deer mortality rates this season, particularly among fawns, which are more susceptible to harsh winters. Although this may be disconcerting to local residents and hunters who value Gunnison's deer herds, mortality among young, old, or sick animals is part of the natural cycle every winter.
There's no doubt that we all deeply care about our wildlife resources, whether it's in the Gunnison Basin or statewide, and no one, including all of us in Parks and Wildlife, likes to see wild animals dying. But the reality is, and not to sound crass or unsympathetic, because I am sympathetic to the whole big picture, and people's feelings are real. But every year we lose thousands of deer and elk across the state due to winter. This particular winter has just been challenging on lots of levels because everything's sort of right in our face and in our backyards, and we're all seeing the power of nature and the power of winter.
In the winter of 2007 and 08, Colorado Parks and Wildlife launched an emergency feeding program in the Gunnison Basin. Triggered by months of extreme sub-zero temperatures and deep, heavily crusted snow, biologists believe that a large-scale feeding operation was the only way to prevent a mass die-off of Gunnison's deer herds. Although feeding programs like this can save some deer in extremely severe winters, Colorado Parks and Wildlife implements long-term feeding operations only when excessive mortality is expected. Because deer and elk will congregate in large numbers at feeding sites, they are much more susceptible to chronic wasting disease and other pathogens. The spread of disease at feeding sites can often lead to greater mortality than winter starvation. Fortunately, conditions this winter in Gunnison are nowhere near as severe as when CPW launched the emergency feeding program 9 years ago.
In 2007, 2008, the winter started mid-December. We got a heavy wet snowfall mid-month that basically encased the whole landscape, and then it turned cold and kind of set that snow up. So really everything was covered from mid-December on in 2007, 2008. The other major difference was that it was cold that winter. And if you look at the average low during that particular winter, the 07-08 winter, it was markedly different from this one. We haven't had those prolonged periods of cold that we did in 2007, 2008.
Colorado Parks and Wildlife will continue to closely monitor elk and deer in the Gunnison Basin and understands the dynamic nature of Colorado winters. CPW reminds residents to obey closures and to avoid recreational activities in areas where elk and deer are wintering. Human activity can cause greater stress on the animals, forcing deer and elk to expend energy that they need to carry them into spring. Residents are also reminded that feeding wildlife is illegal. Supplemental food should only be provided to deer and elk by wildlife managers under controlled circumstances. Colorado Parks and Wildlife thanks you for your concern and cooperation. For more information about Gunnison's winter baiting program, please visit the CPW website.